All right, good morning, everyone. It is 9:03. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order on Tuesday, December 12th. We're asked folks, if you are both willing and able, those who are with us, to stand for the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation will be delivered by Pastor Pam. Welcome back.
Good morning. Let us pray. Oh God, this morning we are thankful to witness another day. During this Advent season of hope, peace, joy, and love, we pray that we would be able to practice those attributes as we interact with each other. We pray this day for our city. We thank God for the leadership and discernment and guidance of our mayor and vice mayor of the city council. We pray over their families and all support staff for the city and every employee. But God, we also thank God for all of us who are residents of Wichita, Kansas. We are thankful for the things that we have witnessed, and we are praying for those things that we still need to work on as we see us soar. We ask now, dear God, during this holiday season that you would provide divine protection, but also, God, that you would also help us to help someone else. Now, dear God, guide this meeting. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you again, Pastor Pam. It's good seeing you. Madam Clerk.
Approve the minutes of the regular meeting of December 5th, 2023.
Has every member had a chance to review the minutes, and if so, is there any discussion? If there is no discussion, then I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Hoheisel. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast their vote. Having received 6 yea votes, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Annie Eby, concerns of turning one-way streets into two-way streets and impact on the handicap.
While we're setting up the podium for public speaking, if you're on the list to speak on the public agenda, just remember you have 5 minutes. We ask you to say your name and your address if you're comfortable when you approach the podium. And just be mindful of the clock. If you go over, I will, of course, let you finish your thought. I might give you one of these. It's just a reminder that the clock is ticking. We do want to be respectful to the people who are also here to speak. So is Miss Annie, are you here? All right, if not, we will go on to the next person. Madam Clerk.
Hope Dale, transportation budgetary constraints.
All right, Hope. All right, we do.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Welcome.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. It is a privilege to be able to speak again with you. My topic is concerning transportation and the budgetary constraints that's been placed on it. I unearthed a couple of plans. One of them is the community investment plan. And under this investment plan, it was proposed in 2015. It was supposed to go until 2035, I believe. It says directly in this, the root cause of our transportation system, specifically buses, is decades of underinvestment in Wichita's long-established public transit system have resulted in minimal service levels, low ridership, and future financial instability. So we knew back in 2015 that our budget wasn't really cutting the mustard when it came to investment in that. Just a little bit below that, it says that for Wichita, the level of investment should be as follows. Very high priority are local streets and bridges. Medium to high priority, public transit, and low to medium priority, freeway enhancements. Low priority, new bypasses. A little bit underneath that, it says Sedgwick County had different plans, and those was going to be local streets and bridges, freeway enhancements, new bypasses, and public transit. So our county dictated back in 2015 that public transit wasn't high on the poll of priority. And if you look at our budget for the capital improvement program, you can see where all the city of Wichita dollars are to go from 24 to 33. And we are investing $573 million in our freeways. It's a little backwards from what we thought we wanted to do in 2015. I know that a lot of that money comes from the state of Kansas specifically. I know that we invest a little bit of money to be able to meet these projects, but I urge the council to take a closer look at this. Take a closer look and see that our infrastructure for our public transit, it's failing. There are plenty of things that speak to that. Performance measures taken from the Transportation Administration in 2022 says that the bus or transit services residents rating excellent or good was 29%. I think that this is indicative of the investments we have made as a city. We haven't really put it back into public transit. I'm sure there are reasons why other projects have been considered, but with the budget from now to 2033, it looks like our priorities back then, they're not being reinvested into our community. They are being reinvested into places around our community. How does that help our commerce? How does that help our small businesses? How does that help our growing families in Wichita? How does that help us? It helps people to get around us, not through us. It doesn't help our small businesses. It doesn't help all of these projects that you guys have created that are beautiful investments and businesses to bring them to Wichita. It doesn't help them out. It doesn't help Spirit. It doesn't help a lot of places. There are a lot of things that we need. Mike Tan had made some comments about this earlier this year. And Mike Tan, the director, wonderful fella. He's been so nice. He's been getting back and forth with me. I really appreciate his time. He cites budgetary constraints for the reason why his department is not doing well. So I urge you to please take a closer look at our budget going forward. I urge you to reinvest that into our community and bring vibrancy to the streets of Wichita using our Wichita transit system. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And I do just want to first thank you for being here. It's an incredibly important issue. And I just want to say I hope you come back. 3 of us won't be on this board next month. And the budget the last 2 years has passed by 1 vote. So to make this a priority with the next council, I think they would benefit from hearing more about not just what your presentation, what the past commitments were by previous bodies, but also the impact on our city. I think public transportation is something that we need to be taking a serious look at. There is a study that is being done to hopefully guide us on the right path, but it takes political will and it's going to take money. So I do hope that you also reach out to the new folks who will be here next year as well.
You betcha. In fact, December 20th, I'm going in front of the Wichita Transit Advisory Board. I've been collecting interviews from citizens on the ground, basically explaining why they don't use it or why they love it. I've got a few more lined up, and I can't wait to bring that to our city.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your work.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Madam Clerk.
Stephen Cranmer, stump removal concerns.
All right, Stephen is here. Welcome, sir, and good morning.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Mayor and everyone else, council. Issue I have is the stumps. The city forestry department comes in and they're cutting trees down and leaving the stumps approximately 1 foot tall, regardless of the size of the trees. Now, these stumps, granted, are on your city boulevard between the sidewalk and the street. That's the city's concern. They say, don't like it, get a permit, ground it down yourself. Earlier this year, I was asked by way of a realtor to please get the stump taken down in front of the resident. Had been removed back in April, and this was in July. And the gentleman says, hey, it's causing the sale of the home to be bad. Okay. So I got a hold of the forestry department, number one. The rigmarole you got to go through to get hold of them. One gentleman says, well, you need to speak with my supervisor. Step two, I got a hold of his supervisor. He told me, nope, there was no way we can get them taken down within the 8-month period of time that they say it takes to get a stump removed in the city. Now, the situation at hand was, this is District 1 that I'm working on. I live in Mr. Blueball's District 4, 2056 South St. Clair is my address. Well, anyway, got a hold of the appropriate people here at City Hall. Before I went to Mr. Manager, Mr. Layton, I went to the City Hall, and they said, Mr. Blueball, that is Mr. Johnson's district. So I got a hold of Mr. Brandon Johnson's district on a Thursday. Lo and behold, that 9 months turned into next Tuesday, it was over with. They were out there with their operations. Now, what my concern is, the city keeps telling me that it is a financial situation. We don't have a budget. They contract the stumps out once a year. They come through and take care of them. My concern is, if they do that, why are there so many stumps around the city that are decaying from a year, 2 years, 3 years past? We're talking on the west side, we're talking east side, we're talking the northeast side. Why does it take so long, sir? 8 months for a stump to be removed.
And how long did it take for your stump to be removed?
I'm talking, we got on the right appropriate people, and they shaved off 6 months and 7 months. By way of getting a hold of Mr. Johnson's office. He got a hold of it. His office jumped right on it within 3 days' time. They're out there with the equipment. Now, my situation is, I was there on job site, and I watched that stump removal come in. He ground a stump. The truck came in behind him, grabbed the mulch out, turned around, dropped it off in a one truck, got another truck that came in and put soil in. All within a matter of probably 30 minutes per stump. And they say there were 1,200 stumps behind. I don't understand. Where do we stand with this? What can we do about it, the step-up procedures?
Well, the Vice Mayor just jumped on the board, so maybe he'll have some more information for us. Vice Mayor Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. Currently, we're over a year behind as far as removing dead trees and stumps and whatnot.
Okay.
Oftentimes, emergency removals jump to the front of the line. That further pushes it back. We do hire out the subcontractors in many circumstances as well, but this is the effects of the droughts that we've had and some sicknesses that we've had over the past couple of years as well. A lot of trees are just now showing their age and dying from the droughts that we've had over the years. So, quite frankly, it's just pretty much a backlog in services at this time, and we try to jump through as appropriate and jump ahead, but a lot of the delays is also due to emergency removals as well.
But, what gets me is I've stood over there and watched them within from 8 to 12. They removed over 20 trees within that short amount of time. Now, if they can do 20 stumps a day, 5 days a week, there's 100 stumps per week. It's not going to take very long for them to get caught up, and we won't have to look at this noise in our city. They're downtown. They're everywhere, and they're gaudy looking. And we have a beautiful city. That's
Right.
my concern.
I appreciate that concern,
Okay.
sir. But again, a lot of times, you're talking just stump removal. It's
Yes.
also tree removal as well.
Yes,
It's the same
yes.
department, so.
But my question is, why can't they follow up within a week's time and do it that way? And that's 1,200, that's 100 trees per week if they only did 20 trees a week.
I appreciate that. I'll try and get you, if you shoot us an email, I'll try and get you the stats as far as how many trees we do have currently
Okay.
on the list to remove as well.
Well, what got me was, in that area that we was concerned with on the east side of town, they came in and did all the trees within a block. You go block either way right now, and they're still. It was no emergency, but why does a person have to put his thumb on something of this nature? And this has been going on, 5 years ago, I had the same situation. I got a hold of you folks, and you got it taken care of because I had an elderly lady get out of a car, and there's no walkway there, no sidewalk, and you cut the tree down, and she ran into it. She says, well, get it taken care of, I'm going to sue the city. Got it taken care of, Mr. Brandon Johnson. Jeff Blueball's district at the time, His office got on it and was taken care of. But why is it 8 months?
Well, that one would sound like that would be justified to be an emergency removal to make sure an
But these
elderly
trees have been
lady has
taken
a
down 3, 4
walking
months,
path.
5 months prior to. And
And I guess when I was on the board, and I really don't want to make this a whole hearing, we hear your concern and we want to get on it. I do have a little bit of remorse, I guess, just, I feel for our forestry department because I believe are understaffed. They also, we get people here who are very upset that we're not planting enough trees. They just planted a forest. Then we get people who upset they're not on top of the limbs. Then we cut the limbs, and then we get people who yell at us because the tree doesn't look like it used to. And we haven't had anyone talk about the stumps. So I'm glad you're here, so we can.
I'm stumped, I guess you can say.
And so I'm glad you're here because it shows, that we're not meeting expectations. But again, I think it's important that we get the information out to folks to know what the process is, so they can at least understand what is going on behind the scenes. And I think emailing the vice mayor and getting, hey, these are the ones on the list, these are the ones that get moved to the top, like the one you mentioned with the elderly woman who, that would be a safety issue. That one's going to get moved to the top before one, that the issue is more of it's unsightly. But I think that we got to make sure that we're getting a job done, but also communicating how that job's getting done so that people know what to expect.
Now, another question, Mr. Mayor, is on, as far as the budget, as far as tree removal, is that a public record that could be seen? And
It is, and it's in our budget booklet. It's online. If you wanted an easier path to it, because our budget's quite detailed, one of our staff could help you out, definitely, or shoot an email to one of us, and we can get someone on it a bit more, get you right to where you want to be on it. And I'll just mention, and I know that I said I don't want to talk about this too long, but here I can keep talking, right? So I do want to mention that part of the backlog is during COVID when we had to cut about, I think, $14 million for our budget. It's interesting because some of it was forestry. It was replanting trees, tree trimming, that type of stuff, because we thought that we rather cut that than core services. And then it was, so you see that we're still trying to play catch up, I think, on some of that as well. So just throwing that out there as part of the equation. It's as you mentioned, it didn't happen overnight, and it's something we're trying to get a handle on.
oh boy, okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk.
Consent agenda items 1 through 16.
Vice Mayor Hoheisel.
I'd like to remove item 6, please, for discussion, a couple of questions.
All right, we will poll item number 6 from the consent agenda. Further discussion about the consent agenda. If there's no further discussion, then I'll make the motion that we take staff's recommended action for the items on the consent agenda, items 1 through 16, with the exception of item number 6. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Vice Mayor Hoheisel. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast their vote. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. We are on item number 6. The chair recognizes Vice Mayor Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a quick question about this. This group that we're contracting out with, DRC, they provide substance abuse treatment and batterers intervention programming. I'd just like a little bit of details about the batterers intervention programming. Is this the 26-week program that we talk about? Is this kind of the gold standard one that we're looking at here?
Yes, when we talk about batterers intervention programming, we're always talking about the Kansas AG approved program. So that is the 26 week, and that's something that is offered to this group free of charge. So it's a tool for us to provide that to people who need higher levels of service at a lower cost.
Okay, If I could maybe at some point get just a number of how many people we send through this program and over the last couple of years, I'd just be curious to see how effective it is, how often it's being utilized.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Further discussion on item number 6? If not, then I'll make a motion to accept staff's recommended action on item number 6 of the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Vice Mayor Hoheisel. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast their vote. Having received 78 votes, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Board of Bids and Contracts dated December 11th, 2023.
Good morning and welcome.
Morning, Mayor, City Council, Josh Lauber, Department of Finance. The Board of Bids and Contracts convened December 11th, and the following recommendations. For purchasing, we have the polymer for use in wastewater solids dewatering facility. We're rejecting all bids. We have the fuel tank replacement at Fire Station 9, rejecting all bids. We have sedans, SUVs, cargo vans, and pickup trucks. We're deferring this to December 18th. We have the interior and exterior modifications of 12 single-family homes deferred to December 18. We have the hydrous ammonia bulk delivery for Air Gas Specialty Products Incorporated in the amount of $212,000. We have the variable frequency drive for Consolidated Electrical Distributors for $144,642.79. Excuse me. This is how to become a vendor with the City of Wichita, Kansas. These are open requests for proposals out on the street today. And I'll try to answer any questions, and I recommend your approval.
All right, is there questions for staff? Councilmember Ballard.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just curious why all of the bids were rejected
Sure.
for the fire department.
Let me go through the first one. If we have someone from Public Works, I don't know this one specifically on the polymer. The fuel tank replacement exceeded the cost estimate, so it's too high, so we need to go back out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Councilmember Fry.
Thank you. Josh, I think the next slide is the one. Nope, keep going. There. Tell me about these 12 single-family homes. Are these any of the ones that we just put up for sale recently?
My understanding is, and I'll defer to housing, it's part of the housing stock. So we're going through the housing stock.
Good morning. Councilman Fry, no, they are not. They are part of the 45 homes in South City where the plan was to use the remaining capital funds we had to rehab them prior to sale.
Okay.
All right, further questions for staff? See none, thank you. Is there further discussion about this item? If not, then I'll make the motion to accept staff's recommended action to receive and file the report, approve the contracts, and authorize necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Vice Mayor Hoheisel. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast their vote. Having received 78 votes, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk. Please.
Repair or removal of dangerous and unsafe structure, 1239 North Mathewson Avenue, front and rear.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Mayor, council members. This is Kaylin Nethercott with MABCD. The property we're reviewing today will be familiar to you. It's one that was first reviewed by the Board of Code Standards and Appeals on November 7th, 2022. It was reviewed then by council on February 7th, May 16th, August 1st, and September 19th of this year, and received additional extensions until today. This property is in District 1. It's had an open housing case for over 5 years. The property taxes are outstanding in the amount of $330.10. There's a 2023 special assessment for board up in the amount of $206.26. The last water consumption was in May of 2018. The meter was removed in April of 2022. This property was damaged by fire in September of 2018. The current premise conditions do include some degree. Of course, winter, the vegetation has slowed down just a bit, and the box truck has been removed since the last time you reviewed this property. The structures are a 1.5-story frame dwelling, roughly 27 by 67 feet in size, vacant for at least 3 years. It has missing and fire-damaged vinyl siding and a worn composition roof. The second structure is a 1-story frame dwelling, roughly 24 by 20 feet in size. This structure has missing and fire-damaged vinyl siding, a composition roof with fire ventilation holes, fire-damaged wood trim, and framing members. A 24 by 12-foot wood accessory structure is in relatively good condition. This property is located in a floodplain. In 2020, a floodplain development permit was reviewed and issued. Subsequently, building, electrical, and mechanical permits were obtained but expired with no work performed and no inspections noted. Recently, the owner has contacted a local construction company, and both permit applications for building and electrical work were denied, as the value of the proposed renovations now exceed 50% of the appraised value. The property has deteriorated significantly since 2020, and subsequently, the appraised valuation has dropped. The owner has the options of demolishing the property himself, contacting a private property appraisal company to have a private appraisal performed, or to expand the scope of renovations to bring the entire property into floodplain compliance. It's our understanding that he's recently made preliminary contact with a local land surveying company, and as you can see, he is here to represent the property today.
Well, all right, thanks for being here. The chair recognizes Councilmember Johnson, as this resides in District 1.
Thank you, Mayor. Love to hear from you, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Yes, yeah, finally I find a sound contractor can do my project. And when I tried to renew the permits, I got surprised because all permits has been canceled for so long. I got to start from zero. And I have here the contract to the survey company who is trying to do everything what is requested by the Kaylin office to put everything what is in requirement, and it's still going on. Here's a copy. Can I give to Kaylin? I have the company here. It's working probably for the next week. Is given the everything what it's supposed to do.
Given the information that we just heard, I'm sure Ms. Kaylin told you as well, what path are you looking at? Are you looking to bring your entire property into compliance with the floodplain? Are you?
Yes.
Okay. So that's some extensive work that you're looking to do. How long do you think it would take you to complete that?
Okay, about to the company or about my project?
The entire project.
Well, if everything go through with my permits, maybe 2 months tap. But if my permits has been approved, because my contractor is ready to start it, that's the reason he put the require for the permit renew, but I received I have to start from zero. But if everything go through, in 2 months, this project has been completed.
Okay, and you fully understand that now because the property value has diminished, the repairs you want to do would mean you'd have to do that entire project and bring it into floodplain compliance?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Let me talk to Kaylin. Given the document that he just gave you, what are some next steps he would need to take to bring this into compliance?
If I may, I'd like to ask Kelly Dixon, who serves as our floodplain manager, to come to the podium. He might be able to better answer the floodplain implication questions than I would.
Okay.
Good morning, Kelly Dixon, Metropolitan Area Building. This is a copy of a contract with Savoy and Company to do a survey. However, it's not signed as of this morning. I checked with Savoy. They had not received a signed copy of this. This is to do a survey to find out if the house can be removed from the floodplain currently, if the elevations around it are high enough. If not, then to bring the house into compliance, that would require raising the lowest floor to a point 2 feet above the flood elevation. This particular house, I believe, has a basement, which means that would have to be filled in and elevated, the structure at that time. The alternative would be to get an appraisal. We all know that private appraisals can be a little bit higher than what the county has. And right now, I believe the county has it about $1,800. So the private appraisal, if it comes in high enough and does not exceed that 50% mark, then they would get a permit and move forward. If that appraisal comes in too low, we're back to going into compliance.
Okay. what you said was some significant work. How long do you think that would take to, I don't know, fill the basement in, raise the house? I mean, that sounds like pretty expensive stuff.
It would be very expensive, yes.
Okay. That's all the questions I had.
All right. Thank you.
So with that, we have given 5 extensions so far on this.
Yes, sir.
What would it look like if we did maybe one more to give him some time, because he says he has a plan to do all of this really expensive work, and that it would not come back to council after that? So it either occurs or it does not.
That would be fine with us.
Okay. And given this, you said 60 days would work for you if all your permits go through?
Yes.
Okay. So I think I'll be a little more generous with that. This holiday season, you're trying to get permits, may take a little while, and get all that surveyed, and you never know what weather may do. I would be willing to give you until April 2nd, which gets you through the holidays, allows you to get some work done. This is a huge undertaking, given that floodplain. Want to give you a fighting chance to get that done, though I have my concerns with, one, the structure and all the work that would be needed for that. In that as well, you would be able to take care of the special assessment and property tax within that time frame?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, I think I'm happy to make a motion if nobody else has any questions.
Floor is yours.
All right. And Jennifer, I might need a little help. It's been a while since I've tried to put this together. I would move that the council give this item until April 2nd, 2024, for the property owner to in full pay the property taxes, special assessment, and bring this property into compliance with MABCD. And if not, then to close the public hearing, declare the building to be a dangerous and unsafe structure, and accept the Board of Building Code Standards and Appeals recommended actions to proceed with condemnation, allowing 10 days to start demolition and 10 days to complete removal of the structure.
That's just perfect.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Hoheisel. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast their vote. Having received 78 votes, that motion does pass.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, unlike the other times this was an extension, if the work isn't done within that time frame, it doesn't come back to council. The motion, it just goes through the process. So I just wanted to make sure that's clear, that this would be the last hearing unless something happens. So good luck.
Thank you.
And thank you. Madam Clerk.
Professional Services for Violence Interrupter Program implementation.
Good morning, Mayor
Good
and
morning.
City
Please
Council.
state your name.
Good morning, Becca Johnson from the Office of Community Services.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to be presenting on Professional Services for Violence Interrupter Program implementation. So you've seen some of this before, but we're back with our final contract. So violent crime in Wichita increased from 2016 to 2021. In 2021, we had 74% homicides that were attributed to gun violence. Residents of these communities, they happened specifically mostly in social and economic distress communities. Residents within those were encountering gun violence at a higher rate than the rest of the city as a whole, and the effects of gun violence extend well beyond individuals to families, neighbors, schools, employers, and community members. Back in September 2022, you all approved a contract with Cure Violence Global for technical assistance to implement evidence-based cure violence model, also known as the Violence Interrupter Program. So that methodology applies evidence-based public health academic reversal strategies to detect and interrupt, so prevent potentially violent situations, identify and change the thinking and behavior of those most likely to engage in violence, and change group norms that support and perpetuate the use of violence. WPD provided data on assaults, murders, and manslaughters from 2019 to 2022, and using that data and Cure Violence Global's expertise, we identified 2 target areas within Wichita. The first is it's within District 1. The north boundary is 25th Street. The south is 9th Street. West is I-135, and east is Oliver. The second one is down in District 3, with the north boundary being Pawnee, the east boundary being Oliver, the west being Broadway and the river, and the south Broadway moves significantly around, but is mainly on Galena and 31st Street. In August of 2023, we released an RFP to solicit responses from the community-based organizations that had credibility and capacity to stand up a violence interrupter site in both of the targeted areas. We received 2 proposals and interviewed both. The selection committee unanimously selected Wichita State University Community Engagement Institute in partnership with Destination Innovation and the Institute of Development. The Wichita State University Community Engagement Institute will act as the program administrator, while Destination Innovation will be the community-based organization who will implement and operate violence interrupter sites, and the Institute of Development will serve as an independent third-party evaluator. Community-based organization is going to be setting up office spaces in both of the target areas. Each target area will have 1 site supervisor, 2 outreach workers, and 3 violence interrupters working at their site, with a program manager overseeing both sites. Our current timeline is anticipation of mobilizing this month, beginning recruiting and hiring in January, and then moving to staff training in February. Financial considerations: the city's American Rescue Plan Act conceptual spending plan is included in the 2023 adopted budget. That plan includes $1,500,000 over 3 years in ARPA funding for the Violence Interrupter Program. The proposed contract for violent interrupter services is $1,270,089 for 1 year and will be funded from this allocation of ARPA funding. The Violence Interrupter Program is an eligible use of ARPA funds. And legal has reviewed and approved, so law department has done all that work. So it is recommended that City Council accept the recommendations of the Staff Screening and Selection Committee and approve the selection of Wichita State University Community Engagement Institute as the consultant to provide the professional services related to a violence interrupter program, approve any necessary budget allocations of ARPA funding, and authorize the necessary signatures. And with that, I will stand for any questions. We do have Q Cornelius from Cure Violence Global online if there are questions about that, as well as Dr. Tarsha Parker from the Institute of Development and Marquita Atkins from Destination Innovation present.
All right, we can open up for questions for staff. They must have done a really good job. No questions. See none. Thank you.
Thank you.
What about to the public? Is public input on this item? Welcome.
Good morning. My name is Janice Thacker. I live at 1537 North Hill Boulevard. I'm a retired high school counselor, art teacher, and have been involved in the community since 1969 when I first started teaching. I think this is a valid program, but I have been trying to work on this since 2016. I have Ruby's Culture Campus I'm trying to start on 13th and Green, and that is right in between the boundaries, the 29th and 9th Street. appears to be hard to get funding or support from the city. I have worked in 11 schools, Italy, New York, retired from Blue Valley School District, worked at Emporia State for 5 years. The whole thing is I have not met a student that did not want to be successful, and I have programs that prove they can enjoy life and be successful. I really feel like it's a cultural image disconnect from the city with the African American community. And so I'm here to say that a lot of you don't know me, some of you do. Brandon Johnson, he comes to our Black Educators Program and presents proclamations every year, has been very supportive, but I don't know if one person can sway the whole ship, but that's what I'm trying to do. One of my students, graduating 2000 from Slagle High School, just received $25,000 scholarship. She has Black Student Union in the school. We used to have it here, where the students can look out for each other and have a sense of belonging. And that's all I have to say.
So just real quick, did you apply for this program?
No, didn't know anything about it. I've been dragging students for the last 12 years from public school to have artwork with the university. I have artwork on Hillside and 9th because I'm also an artist, and artwork on 9th and Minnesota.
Okay, so to accurately, I guess, reflect your concerns, it's not so much with this particular service, it is you want to see more opportunity for other
Correct.
programs to also be supported by the city that have a benefit for our youth.
Correct. And so we have 5 shipping containers, and we need like 20 more to create a culture campus so that students take pride in the community so that we could have Saturday school. Thank you.
Okay. No, thank you. And thank you for being here. I think you raise a good point. It's about investing in organizations that are doing a work to help our youth really take advantage of opportunities that we have in this community, even if they themselves might not see those opportunities. So thank you for the work that you're doing, and your concerns are noted, and hopefully with the next budget, hopefully this body can figure out ways to get more grant opportunities to different programs that have shown success.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
The name of our organization is Art That Touches Your Heart. We're a 501c3. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further public input on this item? Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Victoria Chandler. I'm with Ascension Via Christi as their Trauma Services Prevention Coordinator. We have been having meetings with the City of Wichita, and we are in support of this professional service of violence interrupter program. In the past few years, we have seen an uptick in gun violence, gun injuries to our hospital. So we want to partner with the community and hopefully have this interrupter program and see different numbers go down to support our community and make it a safer place. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, and we appreciate the work that you and your organization are doing as well. Further public input on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. Further discussion on this item? Vice Mayor Hohazel.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to take a minute to thank a lot of people for their work on this. Becca, Tasha, Brooke, I think before she went over to District 4 CSR. Denise and Austin, you guys have been great the whole time. Also a special shout out to Councilmember Johnson, who I kind of came aboard aside this. He had been working on this for quite some time, so thanks for a lot of our staff here, and Marquita, I know you're going to do great things with this, and I'm excited to see this going, and I appreciate everybody's work because this is a big issue in a lot of these areas. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Is there further discussion? And this doesn't happen much, but I do want to thank the council members who have been on the forefront of making sure that not only this project is one that we fund, but also utilize our community organizations to really make the most impact. And I say it's not done a lot because usually I don't think the elected officials sometimes get the gratitude that they deserve for going above and beyond with these type of projects. So thank you to the council members who have been on this issue beyond just today, beyond just even just the last budget cycle. We've been really focused on finding more opportunities for our young folks who might wind up making bad choices if they weren't presented with a program like this. So with that, I will recognize Councilmember Fry.
Thank you,
on the
Mayor.
board.
Appreciate it. Just a couple of quick comments, and this is new territory for us as a council to do this. Paying people to be eyes and ears in our neighborhoods as violence interrupters is a new type of program for the city of Wichita. I think it's sad that we're getting to this point where government has to insert itself in this manner, when as growing up, it was my neighbors, it was my family, it was my friends, it was my church, it was nonprofits that helped keep me personally responsible and accountable. And I know that's not the same for everyone, but I would encourage the community to support this program and help us get ahead of this, because it's not getting better. And for the government to have to step in and do this is unprecedented. And I support this action because we have to do something different. But I just encourage our community to don't let this be the answer. It's part of the solution, but we need you to be our eyes and ears just as much as we need these violence interrupters. Thank you.
I should probably throw out there that this is not a government program. This is a nonprofit in which we're providing grant money for, just like we did provide grant money from our ARPA funds to dozens of nonprofits and educational institutions to try to provide more opportunity for people rebounding from COVID. These are not government employees going out. This is a nonprofit that is equivalent to every other nonprofit that we almost weekly, if not monthly, contribute grant money to, so long as they participate to the betterment of our community. And I think one would argue that the purpose of local government is community safety. Rather that is fire, police, rather that is clean water. In this case, it is the other end of public safety, where if we're going to go make sure that we have the best police and fire in the state, then we also have to make sure that we're keeping our community partners strong that work in prevention. So I appreciate the comments, but I do want to make it clear that Bob Layton's not out there as our city manager on the ground doing this work. It is the nonprofits who have been there in this space. They're the ones on the ground doing this work, and we're coming alongside them on this. So with that, I'll make the motion to accept staff's recommended action to approve the agreement and authorize the necessary signatures.
Second.
Motion is made and the seconded by Vice Mayor Hoheisel. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast their vote. Having received 78 votes, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Wichita Public Library Foundation and City of Wichita Capital Campaign Memorandum of Understanding.
Good morning, Council.
Morning.
I'm Jamie Nix, Director of Libraries for Wichita Public Library. Really delighted to bring a partnership opportunity. As you know, the Focused on Community Master Plan was approved by Council in 2019 after a comprehensive branch facility study that is really caring for public spaces in Wichita around diversity, our own city priorities, partnerships. We have stronger efficiencies being designed, and even more critically, the third place and social connections that happen within our libraries, in addition to digital equity and access and flexible spaces for multiple purposes. The Wichita Public Library Foundation is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to raise funds for the margin of excellence for all Wichita Public Library programs, spaces, and services. They've committed to a new $2 million capital campaign that would provide support for facility enhancements in that margin of excellence space at the Alfred, Maya Angelou, Rockwell, and Westlink libraries, specifically for collections, some technology, and vehicle infrastructure that's going to help us further develop our out-of-building service model. The Wichita Public Library Foundation's Capital Campaign Committee has collaborated with the City of Wichita to develop a Memorandum of Understanding that aligns mutual commitment to complete the branch master plan with the foundation to fundraise for that margin of excellence for spaces, equipment, family engagement furnishing, and technology, with the goal to improve customer access to services. WPLF will pay outright any of the funds that are received. They have a debt level repayment terms that would begin no later than December 31st, 2025 and end no later than December 31st, 2029. In discussion with the city and also WPLF, if the $2 million capital campaign goal isn't met, the library would reduce the margin of excellence funded programs that have been identified. At this point, the capital campaign is about halfway through. It's $2 million and is soon to become more public in its discussion for opportunities to contribute to the project. So the contributions from WPLF will be used to supplement city ARPA dollars that have been allocated for the 4 branch remodels. The city is asked to increase the existing library budgets to include the $2 million from WPLF to offset the timeline in order to receive annual contributions from the 5-year pledge. Our law department has reviewed and approved the capital campaign MOU as to form, and it's recommended that City Council approve the WPLF capital campaign MOU and authorize the necessary signatures.
Questions for staff? See none. Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate it. Is there input from the public on this item? See none, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. Further discussion on this item. Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to thank the Wichita Public Library Foundation for their support of our branch libraries, their commitment for what they've done with the Walters branch and Evergreen and the planned improvements for Westlink, Alford, et cetera, and as well as, can't forget, the Advanced Learning Library. That project would not have happened without the support and assistance from them. So I just want to give a thank you to the Wichita Public Library Foundation.
Absolutely. Well said. Councilmember Tuttle.
Being a little bit redundant, but also just wanted to thank the Wichita Public Library Foundation. Just a great opportunity for more community engagement. Our libraries are so important to so many. Jamie and I have had this conversation many times. It's much more than just books these days. And for many people, it's comfort. It's a place that they can apply for jobs. They can stay connected with family and friends. And so I'm just very grateful for this opportunity. And thank you, Jamie, for your hard work in orchestrating it. Thank you.
Councilmember Tuttle, would you like to retain the floor for a motion?
I would love that. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So with that, I would enthusiastically move that the City Council approve the Wichita Public Library Foundation Capital Campaign MOU and authorize the necessary signatures.
Councilmember Fry.
I second.
Motion has been made and then seconded. Clerk will open a roll. Members will cast their vote. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Capital Campaign Funding Agreement with the Kansas African American Museum.
Good morning, Mayor, Council. Lindsay Banaka, Arts and Cultural Services with the City Manager's Office. Very pleased to present this presentation today for the Capital Campaign Funding Agreement with the Kansas African American Museum. A little bit of background, affectionately known as TCAM, is currently located at 601 North Water Street, which represents the original settlement of the African American community in the late 1800s to early 1900s in Wichita. The current site presents several operational challenges, which significantly affects the full scope of the museum's activities. I would like to just point out that the museum is currently open and programming, and despite the work that's going into a new site, we do encourage people to go visit it today and until the new site does open. The city has sought to support the museum in securing a new location since 2005, when the city entered at that time into a lease agreement to help the museum secure a new facility, and that location was at 777 West Central as part of the River Corridor Improvement Project. That lease agreement was extended and then ultimately terminated upon mutual consent between both parties, and yet the city remained committed to supporting the museum in a future capital endeavor, which is why we're here today. A new property has been purchased by the museum at 201 North Main Street. The museum has now entered into a public capital campaign for the project. It is exciting to note that the museum has raised over $5 million in gifts and pledges to date, and we believe that they have a very successful campaign ahead of them. And they do own the new property outright, so we are very excited for them to finish up this leg of the campaign. Couple of images of what the new site will look like, exterior, and a couple interior shots. For financial consideration, it's recommended that the city support the capital campaign in the amount of $300,000 in financial sponsorship, with payments of $100,000 each year for the following 3 years. In terms of reporting, the museum will be responsible and required to submit a semi-annual and annual report through the duration of the agreement and provide fundraising updates and operational updates on the opening of the new facility. We believe this project aligns with the city's cultural arts priorities, which include increasing participation of residents, specifically those underserved and historically underserved and culturally diverse in the cultural arts. We also believe that it aligns with our priorities in strengthening the capacity of cultural arts in the community, increase the number of facilities and assets available to meet community needs, establish Wichita as a regional hub for cultural arts, and support efforts that stimulate the creation of new artwork and cultural opportunities in our community. Staff recommend the approval of this funding agreement and the authorization of the necessary signatures. And I do want to point out that Denise Sherman, the Executive Director of the museum, is available for questions as well.
All right. Are there questions for staff? See none. Thank you. Is there input from the public on this item? See none. We'll bring discussion back to the bench for the discussion on this item. Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. This item is exciting to support TCAM. I first had this proposed, I believe it was 2018 when we were talking about this. I'm glad to see that the museum has a new site. It's a great site. Looking forward to seeing this project complete. It's going to be amazing downtown, and there's so much history that isn't even on display right now at the museum. It's downstairs where people can't see it. So I'm looking forward to, one, seeing this commitment, and then two, having that ribbon cutting when it's all done. And I just want to publicly shout out Denise Sherman and all the hard work that she has done. It is amazing what her and the board has been doing for the museum, and just appreciate all your work to make this or bring this into fruition.
Further discussion. See none, the chair recognizes Councilmember Ballard, as this resides in District 6.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to take staff's recommended action, approve the capital campaign funding agreement to support the Kansas African American Museum, Inc., and authorize the necessary signatures.
Councilmember Johnson.
Second.
Motion has been made and then seconded. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast their vote. Have received 78 votes. That motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
2024 contract renewal with Visit Wichita.
Hello.
Morning.
Back again, Lindsay Banaka, Arts and Cultural Services with the City of with the City Manager's Office, also with the City of Wichita. The next is the annual renewal for Visit Wichita's annual contract. A little bit of background, the Tourism and Convention Fund, or TGT, supports special activities and conventions and special events in Wichita. The City of Wichita contracts with Visit Wichita to promote tourism and convention activities within this community. Visit Wichita also provides services under a separate contract, the TBID, or Tourism Business Improvement District, that is directed by an advisory board. I do want to point out that Visit Wichita is our local expert in the tourism industry with decades of experience in marketing Wichita both as a regional and national destination. They track a variety of metrics, which you'll hear about in a moment, that show tourism as an economic driver in the community and really lead efforts in bringing conventions, meetings, sporting events to our community. They're also a partner and liaison with the hotels and track occupancy and daily rates. Visit Wichita Wichita is led by President and CEO Susie Santo, who is going to take over the presentation, and ultimately Visit Wichita's performance is reviewed annually by the City Manager's Office and Finance Department. And with that, I'll turn it over to Susie.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor. Susie Santa with Visit Wichita, 515 South Main Street. It's a pleasure to be here today to talk about travel tourism and what's happening in our great city. And as Lindy indicated, we have several performance indicators, and as you can see on the screen, we look at economic impact, which is measured by our future group bookings, as well as being a good financial steward of the dollars that are given to us. And that's measured by return on total operating costs at TPN thermal room nights and leisure marketing. Our results for 2023, future group bookings generated over $15 million in economic impact. When we're looking at those repeated in service, over $37 million. And then our leisure visitor campaign, over $105 million. And I'll talk about a little bit more when we look at our financial stewardship results. Again, for every dollar we spent, drove over $24 back into the community. And on the TBID side, you can see those results as well. I will tell you on the leisure marketing campaign, we always, just to remind the group, we always do research at the end of the year to get those final return on investment numbers. So that we're actually doing it right now. And next time I come before you, I'll let you know where we netted out. But right now we're anticipating over $46. The industry, last year when I was here, I was talking about we are no longer comparing to pre-pandemic. 22 is a new norm. Well, 23 now is the new norm. When we look at our hotel key indicators, we look at the STAR report that shows like how is our hotels doing, because that's a good indicator if visitors are coming and spending the night. And I will tell you, it's been an all-time high. From demand, and that's the number of rooms that are rented out, all-time high, and this is through October. The demand is up over 3%, average daily rate's up over 5%, and as a result, our revenue for our hoteliers is up over 8%. So those are all good indicators that regardless of the economy, people still want to travel, and that's important to get out and take these getaways. Some of the things we've been working at back at the organization, and I want to take a minute and thank the entire team at Visit Wichita. It's been an outstanding year. A few of our highlights, we're thrilled that we rolled out All Heart, All Welcome on our website, so take a look. It really is part of our DEIA initiatives to make sure that all of Wichita is included as we tell those incredible stories about our community. We are back out with year-round multi-channel marketing in our drive market. So people always ask me, like, I've told you before, like, I don't see your advertising. I'm like, well, you're already here. If you're out in our drive market, you're seeing our commercials in the summer. You're getting all of the digital ads to make sure when you're thinking about a getaway, you're coming to Wichita. We tested 3 new markets this year. We were out in Springfield, Omaha, and Lincoln. So for the first time, they're seeing our messages, and we're anxious to see when we get back our SMART results how that fared. Hosted over 50 social media influencers and travel writers, and garnered some really good regional and national PR for the community. To remind the council, we partnered with the city and Populous back in Q1 to set a new vision for Century 2 that's a repurposed Bob Brown and keeping the Century 2 intact, and we hope to further those conversations next year. We brought meeting planners in from around the country to showcase the city and for site tours, et cetera. And we also welcomed thousands and thousands of athletes and their family through the many hosted sporting events. I'm actually going to play a quick video. This was a sporting event that we hosted out at Shields Stryker this past summer. We talked a little bit about USYS President's Cup. And so we have a quick little video. And if that's okay, let's go ahead and play the video.
This is my time, I'm on the rise, can't hold me down, I'm too fly. This is my time, ready to shine, brighter than all of the lights.
A pretty cool event is coming to Wichita starting today, actually. It is the U.S. Youth Soccer National President's Cup. Some of the best teams from the ages 13 to 19 in the entire country will be vying for a national championship at Stryker Soccer Complex.
104 teams from 36 states are in Wichita competing for a national title. It's the 15th year of the U.S. Youth Soccer President's Cup.
When BVB, Pittsburgh, and other teams come to town, it pays off.
About a $4 million impact on the community. You're looking at, air travel, fuel, restaurants, hotels, shopping, all of those things.
This is huge. More than 2,000 athletes. Now think about this, with their families, with their coaches. It is going to be a huge economic impact on Wichita. Visit Wichita worked really hard, our sports team, to get this tournament here. It is like the big of the big when it comes to soccer.
To have that here in Wichita is something that's pretty special. And I know over at Stryker, that's a great facility and a lot of fun.
Literally, anyone I've spoke to, whether it's parents, coaches, administrators, the people of Wichita have embraced everyone that's come to town.
Oh, the complex is fantastic. It definitely has been exceeded the needs that we expect from any of the complexes we use around the country. It's just top-notch, first-class facility for sure. Anytime we go into a new place, there's always those unknown factors, but this has just been exceptional, so we are very happy right now.
Anything we thought of has been done. Anything we asked for has been done. This is by far the best President's Cup ever.
Ready to shine, brighter than all of the lights, 'cause when it's game time, seconds away and the game's on the line, there ain't no doubt in my mind, beating the buzzer like, this is my time, this is my time.
Catchy little tune, right? I want to thank the mayor. Thank you for coming out and greeting all the athletes on the opening event. They really appreciated it, and you could feel the excitement. I also want to thank Councilmember Tuttle for coming out on your weekend and touring the facility. It was really pretty cool to see all those athletes and their family, and to see Shield Stryker in with all the flags. So again, and that event alone brought in over I think 3.6 over close to 3.8 million in economic impact as we got to showcase the city. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So that shows a little bit of our some of the things that were accomplished. Also, you can see some of the events that we won that will be coming in the future years. And to kind of put it in perspective, there are times when we'll win an event and host it in that same year, but we were also securing future events. And I think the furthest out we secured last year was for 2027. But you can again see some of those that we'll be hosting. We're excited to host the Sports Relationship Conference. This is brand new, never been here, and these are all bid rights holders coming to Wichita. There'll be other CVBs across the country like us trying to pitch their cities, but the benefit is we have them in ours. So we'll be showing and meeting with them, and the sports team will be having appointments, et cetera. Happy to work with the Airport Authority to bring the Airport Executives Conference here. We partnered with Village Travel to bring the International Motor Coach here and other partnerships. But again, looking forward to hosting these groups in the years to come. I wanted to pull up this slide and just talk about some sports that are happening next year. Not only is this great from an economic driver because we're bringing these athletes and their families to town, but there are some incredible events that Wichitans are going to want to get out and support. And again, all of these events are here because of the sports team back in the office who went out, found them, and brought them here. If you've never seen synchronized ice skating, you are missing out. You need to head to Interest Bank in January. We've hosted them in the past, but they'll be back. So think synchronized swimming, but on ice and skates, and that happens in January. We have wrestling, NAI wrestling, and NCAA D2 men's wrestling that we'll be hosting. Major League Table Tennis. This is a first coming in, and they're actually the best players in the world play for teams across the U.S., and the teams come and compete against each other. And we'll be hosting that at WSU. Hosting the USA Lacrosse, and I want to thank our partners out at Shield Stryker and Larry and the team for working with us to bring this event. We're bringing lacrosse out to Shield Stryker Sports Complex. And in June, I got to talk for a moment about Athletes Unlimited. Softball star Sydney McKinney, from those of you that love softball know she's one of the best that ever played at WSU, one of the best softball players in the world. And thank you, Councilmember Ballard, for heading out there for the press conference. We are so excited that we are bringing women's pro soccer to Wichita for the entire month of June. This is a unique opportunity to see the best softball players in the world. They'll be out at WSU. How they play, they bring in, I think, like 40-some athletes. They play 18 games over a 2 to 3 week period. But what makes it fun is that every athlete is scored on a roster, and you watch them. If they make a good play or they, hit a double or a triple, they get points. And so they continue to rise on the roster. So the people that come out are supporting for the athletes. After each game, they shuffle it up and they get new teams put together and they play again. So it's unlike anything we've seen here. Sydney will be here. And again, bringing 41 of the best women athletes with her. So I encourage, we want to sell that out. We want standing room only, so I encourage Wichitans to put that on your calendar. And then you just saw the video from youth soccer, and you heard directly from them it was the best they ever had. And that afforded us the opportunity to win, to bring them back. So youth soccer will be back again this summer. And then we round out the year with some great soccer championships with the NJCAA men's and women's, and also the NAIA. They were both here this year. We've had them in a 2-year deal. They're coming back. And I will tell you that snowy day and Saturday, we woke up to snow. That was actually the first practice day for our NAIA men's soccer. And then weren't they grateful that we had the indoor facility to move into? So again, we are thrilled to be able to be bringing these events to Wichita. And so before I pass it back to Lindsay, I would be remiss if I didn't do a special thank you to Councilmembers Fry, Councilmembers Blubaugh, and Mayor Whipple. It has been a pleasure over the last many, many years to work with you. We so appreciate your support and your understanding of the value of travel and tourism to Wichita. Thank you, and all of us at Visit Wichita just wish you the best in your next chapter. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, and we appreciate the update and also the great work that's happening over at Visit Wichita. Is there questions for staff?
Oh, if I could just close up real quick.
Of course, please do.
Just for financial considerations, we are recommending the allocation not to exceed $2,635,594, and to continue the convention promotion contingency fund reimbursement up to $150,000. And staff recommend approval of the Visit Wichita 2024 contract renewal and authorize the necessary signatures. Thank you.
All right, well, with that, we do have a couple people on the board. Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, and actually, this is for Susie. So, the mayor and I both serve on the Visit Wichita board, and I just want to thank you and your staff for the amazing work that you've been doing over the last several years in rebuilding our tourism and convention economy after COVID. To see the $1.5 billion in the Wichita area spent in 2022 and over $200,000 in state and local taxes, that's tremendous. So thank you. Please pass that along to everyone at your staff. I love the all heart, all welcome logo. It's too bad we couldn't have incorporated that into the Century 2 repaint on the roof. That would have been neat.
There's still time.
There's still time? We're not finished.
We're not finished.
So hopefully maybe we can get a new picture fairly soon. Obviously, you're going to have to increase your photography budget because you got to get all new pictures of that roof, right? So maybe we should get up there and take a picture. That'd be cool. But anyway, thank you for everything that you and your staff do. It's amazing to see the increase in professionalism and the marketing materials. When we travel and we see it in these other markets, it's cool. It's a great source of pride as a Wichitan to see that. So thank you.
Thank you.
And the data also, just not to be nerdy, but just to piggyback on my colleague, the real-time data, that 1.5 million, I think you guys broke it down into what that does for the state general fund, how many jobs that creates. I think it's over 2,000 full-time teacher salaries at the average rate. So really appreciate your ability not just to do what Councilmember Fry just said, but also how you communicate the success for different ways in which we can really grasp the economic impact of your guys' work. So thank you for that. And I do have more people on the board, so I don't mean to jump ahead. But
I just want to say thank you, and I'll pass those accolades back to the team because it's really all due to the incredible folks back at the office. So thank you.
Excellent. Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Just real quick, this was awesome, and appreciate the work that you and your team have been doing. And I wanted to offer that I will volunteer as the council coach, and the city council can compete against all the champions and all of these things coming up. And I'm happy to.
Skate? I was going to.
Yeah, I'll make sure that they know what they're supposed to do out there. And
Thank you.
Councilmember Blubaugh.
Thank you, Mayor. Susie, I appreciate, I've challenged you more than anybody, probably on numbers and stuff. And hopefully that has created a better business model. But I particularly want to thank you for, years ago, we'd said we were going to make an emphasis on youth sports and bringing that to town. How much I did. Appreciate everything you've done for that. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It means a lot.
Councilmember Tuttle.
I'm just going to continue the love fest, but thank you, Lindsay, for your presentation and your work on this. And then also thank you to Susie and your team. I remember back in 2019 when the Women's Bowling Congress came and we were on North Rock and Susie had the amazing opportunity of throwing the first ball and we were all, bated breath. She got a strike. So
Very lucky.
But it really showed me that you don't just get the events here when they come. You are the greeter. You were the one out there on Saturday driving me around in a golf cart so I could see all of the players and get to meet them. So this really is a labor of love for you. And I know your team deserves the recognition, and I thank them too. But the work that they do and the impact that you have is because of your leadership. So thank you very much. And I look forward to more events at Stryker and more great opportunities for people to come and see what a wonderful city we are. And hopefully they'll want to come back. So thank you.
Thank you guys so much for the comments. I tell you, we love what we do every day, and I can't tell you how much all your comments mean personally to me, but and to the team. So thank you.
All right, further questions for staff? Seeing none, is there input from the public on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. Further discussion on this item? If there is no further discussion, then I'll make the motion to accept staff's recommended action to approve the contract and authorize the necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Vice Mayor Hoheisel. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast the vote. Having received 78 votes, that motion does indeed pass. Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Letter to the governor requesting consideration of homelessness infrastructure grant funding in state fiscal year 2025 budget.
All right.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, Troy Anderson, Assistant City Manager. So we all know homelessness in Wichita has been an ongoing concern for years. Access to housing continues to be a barrier. Post-COVID, encampments have expanded. As you all know, in 2022, the task force to end homelessness was initiated that included elected officials, nonprofits, education, and the private business sector. Additionally, in 2023, City announced plans for a multi-agency center, also known as the MAC currently. And that project is to provide congregate shelter and non-congregate shelter and a resource center with wraparound services in addition to upwards of potentially 150 housing units. Currently, there is a little more than $20 million in local and federal government funding that's been designated towards the MAC. There's a funding plan for an additional $37.5 million in additional funding. However, there is approximately about a $22 million gap in funding for the remainder of the project as it's currently contemplated. So 2 months ago, meetings with a bipartisan group of state senators and representatives from the region were convened to discuss this issue. This same group agreed that state government has a role to play in all of this. As a result, the city of Wichita, Sedgwick County, and other cities in the region supported the creation of a one-time fund available via grant or other application to assist with needed build-out of shelters or other facilities to help end homelessness. And as a result, a letter to the governor was drafted. The letter has been provided to you all. This was a draft letter that was provided to us. We did not draft it. This is the same letter that's been distributed amongst all of the organizations. We anticipate that if this grant fund is created, it will require a local match. It's our intent to utilize the proceeds from the disposition of the Housing Authority, Section 18 single-family homes, our home ARP funds, our ARPA revenue replacement funding, and LIHTC credits, in addition to new market tax credits as that match. With that being said, we recommend that you all consider endorsement of the letter. In addition, I'm reminded that there is a resolution that has been provided to you all as well in advance of consideration of the letter. So we recommend that you consider endorsement of the letter, adopt the resolution, and authorize the necessary findings. And otherwise, I'll stand for questions.
Questions? Councilmember Fry.
Thank you. And Troy, I appreciate the presentation. I've taken part in a couple of those bipartisan meetings. Just a question about the second paragraph of the letter where it relates to the barriers to access piece. I understand the grant request and I'm fully supportive of asking the governor of the state of Kansas to help us close that funding gap, but that second paragraph lists legislative policy action that we have not discussed as a council, nor is it part of our current legislative agenda. So I struggle because there's certain elements of that when it references civil eviction records, and I don't know what those consequences are for landlords and how that might, we haven't talked to our constituents, our neighbors, or any of these folks about those elements. We haven't talked about it as a council, so including that in the letter, I'm a little challenged by that. We didn't draft that part of the letter, did we?
No, that's correct. We did not draft that. And obviously, you're right. Once you all take steps to set forth your legislative priorities, that will represent your legislative priorities, right? We sort of struggled with this one as well. We, again, didn't draft the letter. This was provided to us. And so that's why we were careful to present this to you in such a way that it was a consideration of the endorsement of the letter, and by no way did we recommend either one way or the other. But we definitely appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
I'm fully supportive of the grant request. It's just the other part of it, since we've not had that discussion, it feels a little out of order.
Fair enough.
To include that. So, okay, thank you.
Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you. Thank you, Troy, for your presentation and for your work on this. For those who don't have the letter in front of them like we do. So in the letter, it states the need and what the funding would be used for, but then it also lists 38 different entities, if you will, some government, and then also the Sedgwick County Association of Cities, the Chamber of Commerce, Greater Wichita Partnership, and then it goes so far as also, Johnson County and City of Hutchinson. So I'm just curious, there's 38 different entities that are listed here. How many of them have actually signed it or agreed to sign?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. From my understanding, it was being distributed. We may be one of the first ones that actually may be taking this up.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Councilmember, I've been told that a number of jurisdictions have already signed the letter. I just don't have that number.
Okay, and that's fine. I was just hopeful you were going to say 38. I'm hoping that we're one, and then everybody else will follow suit. The other question that I have, and I know that we'll begin the process of our legislative agenda here soon, but we're sending a letter to the governor, and I think that's a great statement. I did have an opportunity to talk to some of our colleagues in the South Central delegation, and they wondered what the next step is, because a letter is a statement, and it's an important statement, but are we planning to have any additional kind of communication, just for my own curiosity?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, we're going to continue pursuit of the development of the MAC as we have currently contemplated it, right? If for whatever reason that additional funding isn't made available, then obviously we may have to value engineer the project some. But obviously we're going to continue to work through finding additional funding sources, additional partners to continue to try to take advantage of the opportunity we've been given around the MAC. I think that absolutely includes ongoing conversations with our state representatives to see if there's an opportunity for the state to contribute to the project.
And I'm just going to make one more comment if I can. I'm going to editorialize a little bit. I want to thank Sally Stang, our 21st Century Director of Housing. This is one more thing that we're doing to address this issue. Since I've been on council for the past 5 years, I see we've developed the Homelessness Task Force. We work significantly with our homeless outreach team. To be honest, I can't even think a name of everything that our housing department does. And I made the comment one time that if Sally Stang knew there was one homeless person on the streets, she wouldn't sleep at night. So I know this is a labor of love, not only for you, but also for the housing department. So Sally, thank you to you and your team.
So we do have more questions. Well, I will save mine towards the end. Councilmember Blubaugh.
I just want to understand on Councilmember Fry's questions. Are these the housing units specific to what's being funded for this, or is this a blanket overall for the state?
So this is a request to create a $50 million grant fund that agencies across the state would be able to apply for grant dollars to build homeless shelter facility, whatever that community deems appropriate. For our local project, it would be funds associated with the MAC, the non-congregate housing shelter, the congregate housing shelter, the navigation center, and housing.
Okay. So specifically, the part of the letter that addresses the ceiling of evictions, is that only for people that will live in this housing unit, or is it for overall everybody in the state? Is that what we're trying to figure out what we're requesting?
Yep, no, that's a great question. The second paragraph of that letter doesn't differentiate whether it's for the purposes of the grant funds. It's my understanding that was probably more of a blanket statement. There may be organizations, of the 38 organizations, there may be organizations that want to support that legislative agenda. Whether or not you all decide that as part of your legislative agenda when you take those actions here in the near future will be for you all to decide. But no, I don't think that there's a connection directly with those funds to the project.
Okay.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. I was actually going to wait until after public comment, but the discussion started. One, I'd like to say I appreciate bringing this letter to the council. I'm in agreement with the letter, but specifically for anyone who might be wondering what some of the questions were about, on the letter, it talks about the legislature assisting with barriers to access of housing, such as adopting source of income discriminations protections and adopting state statutes that will allow civil eviction records to be sealed after a set period, and the same type of language is on the resolution. I wanted to say I'm 100% in support of that. We've had too many issues with property managers and landlords in this city deciding not to work with people who have housing choice vouchers. At one point, it put us in a bind and even forced us at one point to try to incentivize and give them $1,000 just to take it. And we shouldn't have to do that, and people shouldn't be discriminated against because they have a housing choice voucher. And again, I always bring up the article that highlighted the one person who was responsible for a quarter of evictions in Sedgwick County. Once that's on your record, it's hard to get another place. So having those records sealed is extremely important. I've heard from several people, and I still have those messages from people who have faced discrimination because of those eviction records, whether that landlord liked them or not, and because they have a housing choice voucher. Many people who have those vouchers, there's some image of them being a bad tenant, or because there was one bad experience, everyone has that blanket view. So one, I'm supportive of that, and two, not to wait on the legislature. I believe this council should have an ordinance, an amendment to our NDO that talks about source of income discrimination. And I know we can't do anything on civil eviction records. I wish we could, so I definitely want to encourage that. But I would love to see this council take up an amendment, in which I've already sent to the manager in Troy, that we saw from Lawrence, and we just saw Kansas City, Missouri do the same thing. I think it's incumbent upon us to do so. And again, we've seen where there are state statutes that outlaw something and there's no enforcement. And I think we need some municipal enforcement on that. And I don't think we have to wait on the legislature. We should take the lead and do so as soon as possible. So I'm supportive of this. I think it makes us a better city if we do so. And if the state adopts it, I think it makes our state a better place as well.
Get the amendment drafted by the second. We'll consider it. Councilmember Blubaugh.
It's already drafted.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Johnson, could you explain to me what income discrimination means? You use that term. I was just curious what that means.
Source of income discrimination, which means you're discriminating against someone based on their source of income.
I didn't hear source. I heard income discrimination.
Yeah.
You mean because it's coming in from the...
Whatever source that might be. If you don't like someone who has a housing choice voucher, if you don't like someone who's paying cash, whatever that might be.
Is there a lot of that?
There is no law for that, but there is that happening quite a bit, yes.
Yeah, there is a case.
We heard that from Sally in a presentation as well, I believe at a workshop, and as well as a council meeting, that it happens quite a bit. That's why we created that incentive program that tried to pay people $1,000 to push their discrimination to the side.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you. I just have one correction and then maybe a request. I counted wrong. When I said 38, it's really 40 because we have Congressman Estes, Marshall, and Moran in one line. So if you're going to quote, make sure you use 40. But I do think we should make the correction when I saw this, and I'm sorry I didn't catch it earlier. It's Congressman Estes, but it's Senator Moran and Senator Marshall. So we need to make sure we get their titles correct if we are going to indeed put this on our letterhead and send it. So just a thought. Thanks, Troy.
I'm always impressed with Councilmember Tuttle's ability to find those details. Very good. So with that, I am in support of having the state legislature take a bigger role in helping really with what is a local and a state issue, which is homelessness. And my question for staff is, frankly, does a governor have the authority by herself to give us grant money in the tens of millions? Because my understanding, this is also, at least when I was there, the legislature controlled the purse strings. And so are we asking the governor to put this in her budget, or are we asking the governor, has something changed where the governor could, with the stroke of a pen, send us the necessary funds for our MAC program?
To answer that question, the letter is drafted in such a way that it requests that the governor put it into the 2025 budget. So, no, I'm not aware of an ability for the governor to provide those funds available today, but the request is to create a fund, create an opportunity for, again, those communities around the state to be able to apply for funds within that grant, provide a local match, we anticipate, for whatever the local purpose is. We know what our purpose would be. We know what we would apply for grant dollars for, but no, it would have to be a program and a fund that would be established in a future budget.
Established and approved by a legislature, and then the governor's departments would eventually handle the grant aspect of it. I just did want to point that out because just in my experience, there's not enough responsibility to go around. I don't want this to be the end where a group of bipartisan local legislators said, well, we asked the governor, and then they kind of wash their hands with it. The reality is, asking the governor to present this as part of her budget, each part of that budget gets broken down and sent to committees, different budget committees, and then it comes back months later as really the legislative budget, not just the governor's budget. So I do want to point that out, that while I am in support of this resolution and this letter to the governor, the conversation still needs to extend to our legislative delegation and a majority of the legislators. So as was just mentioned by staff, this isn't just the governor's ability. This ability is given to the Senate and the House of Representatives at the state level, and we will have to continue to encourage their support as well. So further questions for staff? See none? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there input from the public on this item? See none. Further discussion, back to the bench. Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Again, can't harp on this enough. There are too many barriers to housing. Currently, there are property managers and landlords that are requiring people to make 3 and 4 times the amount of rent to live there, to have credit scores above 600. If life has hit someone hard, they don't qualify. And there's just another barrier, a source of income discrimination that is out there. I'm glad this is in the resolution. I again want to say that we should take this up as a body and do something about it in our ordinance and continue to strongly encourage the sealing of eviction records. There are too many people that are being impacted by that even today in this holiday season, and we need to take action. So I'm definitely supportive of this, but also calling upon us to do more as well and not wait on session to start in January and hopefully see some bills become law. We can do things now here in Wichita.
Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. I share my colleagues' opinions on that one. Also, I'd like to just say a special shout out and thank you to our colleagues at county and state. This is a state issue, and unfortunately here in Wichita, we take the brunt of a lot of the unhoused individuals from across the state that come here looking for resources, looking for work. So I do appreciate that they acknowledge that they do have a place in this as well, and hopefully we can keep this conversation going. This isn't just a one-time thing, but we can also continue the conversation around housing, around accessibility to housing, and also just other programs that we can use to keep people from becoming homeless to begin with. So I do appreciate everybody's work on this.
Councilmember Ballard.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually just saw a list of all of the different cities, representatives, senators, and many other organizations that have signed off on the letter. So I'm happy to share that with any of my colleagues afterwards. But there's, I think, 41 so far that have signed off on it, and it's other organizations as well. So,
Further discussion. If there's no further discussion, then I will make the motion to accept or to recommend that the letter is adopted. We're going to try that one more time. Because it's actually not a recommended action by the staff. The recommended action is to consider this. So please excuse me for getting ahead of myself. I'd like to make the motion that the City Council endorses the letter, adopt the resolution, and authorize the necessary signatures. Is there a second? Seconded by Vice Mayor Hoheisel. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast their vote. After receiving 5 yea votes to 2 no votes, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
DER 2023-12, Amendment to the Wichita-Sedgwick County Unified Zoning Code regarding the use of regulation tables.
Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor, City Council. Philip Zievenbergen with the Planning Department. The item before you is a recommended amendment to the Unified Zoning Code. Here's the recommended action. We'll visit this at the end of the presentation as well. Inside the Unified Zoning Code, there's a use matrix that is also available to the public. It is a very useful table that identifies our use categories on the left in the rows, and it tells you which zoning classification those uses are permitted by right, which is indicated by a P, or those that are needed a conditional use in order to be permitted in that zoning classification, which is indicated by a C. If there's nothing indicated in the box, that means that use is not permitted in that zoning classification. The matrix also includes conditions listed on the far right-hand corner if there are additional supplementary use regulations for that particular use, which may dictate additional rules or regulations that the use has to abide by in either certain zoning classifications or all zoning classifications that it is permitted in. One of the things that we've noticed is that there are certain uses in the zoning code that the supplementary use regulations, or that the section of the code listed under conditions in the table, require specific uses to be conditional uses if certain criteria are met. One of those example is tavern and drinking establishments. Others include event centers, nightclubs, certain things where this example, particularly if you are within a certain distance of a church or place of worship, school, park, or residential zoning, a tavern or drinking establishment requires a conditional use. When looking at the table, you see that it is listed as P in certain zoning districts, but really in reality, that could be a conditional use in those zoning districts if it meets the criteria of the conditions in the supplementary use regulations. And so what we're doing with this amendment is really just updating the table to indicate which uses actually might be a conditional use or permitted by right, but really more research is needed. That way, if an individual in the public is looking at this on their own and they say, hey, I have a tavern or drinking establishment, my property is zone limited commercial, I can just go get my license, only to find out that indeed they're 300 feet from a park, and they need to come in and do a public hearing process to get a conditional use. There's not frustration or miscommunication or potentially things missed and something being allowed to happen when truly it needed a zoning action. So really it's just an amendment to the visual aesthetics of the table to avoid confusion or frustration for the user as well as staff or anybody using this table, just by amending those uses to indicate that they could be conditional uses and you need to read further or possibly contact the department to get more information. So our process up until then was, of course, we bring it to the advanced plans for consideration. We did a public notice, had the public hearing at Planning Commission, and then going before the governing bodies, yourself as well, the Board of County Commissioners tomorrow, as it is a unified code by both jurisdictions, and we need both sign-offs to make the amendment. So the recommended action for you guys this morning is to adopt the recommended amendment to the Unified Zoning Code, place the ordinance on the first reading, authorize the necessary signatures, and instruct the clerk to publish the ordinance after approval on the second reading. And I can stand for any questions.
Questions for staff? Vice Mayor Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just want to be clear, all the changes are moving from by right to dual, by right, and conditional.
Right, just to indicate that it isn't necessarily by right. There could be conditions that require it to be a conditional use.
Just clarifying it.
Just clarifying it, correct.
Okay, I have just one question. This is a little in the weeds here, but I do see that we moved it to conditional for a church or place of worship in a residential. Could you just give me do we have any input what the conditions might be for that particular item?
Right. Those conditions haven't changed. I apologize that I don't have that specific information ready at the wings to address on. My understanding is that the conditions of that were already there. We're not changing any of that. We're just clarifying the table. So in that instance, that possibly needs a conditional use in the certain circumstance that you're addressing. I apologize. I don't have that information directly in front of me with the code. But
okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, it was just like I said, it caught my eye, so I was a little curious about that.
So it's not changing of the regulations that already exist. We're just clarifying the table.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Philip.
Further questions for staff? See none. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So this is planning agenda, which means there is no public
Correct.
input, even though it's not about a particular, it's about a universal change. It's not about a particular structure or piece of land. So with that, we will go right into discussion. Is there further discussion? If there's no further discussion, then I'll make the motion to accept staff's recommended action to adopt the recommended amendment to the Unified Zoning Code changes, place the ordinance on first reading, authorize the necessary signatures, and instruct the city clerk to publish the ordinance after approval on second reading. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Hoheisel. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast their vote. Clerk will please open a roll. There we go. Perfect. It was mine. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does indeed pass. Madam Clerk.
Council member appointments and comments.
Let's start with appointments. Do we have any appointments up for the moment? Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to appoint Twyla Purity to fill the remaining term of one of my members who resigned on District 1 Advisory Board.
All right. Is there other appointments at this time? If there's no other appointments, then I'll make the motion to accept that appointment. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Hoheisel. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast their vote. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. Back on announcements. There are further announcements for the good of the body? If there's no, Councilmember Tuttle.
Thank you. I just wanted to put a save the date for my fellow colleagues and then community members. Yesterday, I had an amazing opportunity. I was asked to go to McConnell Air Force Base, and I got to meet and welcome the Blue Angels. So it was wonderful to be able to meet them and hear a little bit about their stories, and then also tell them a little bit about the city of Wichita. But on August 24th and 25th, McConnell's going to have their air show, and the Blue Angels will be back. And so they're going to try to do a really big regional promotion of the air show, and it's just such a great way to highlight our community. But again, just the importance of our relationship with McConnell Air Force Base. It's often said that the airmen and women come to Wichita by choice, but they stay here. They come here by chance, but they stay here by choice. And so just appreciated the opportunity. So save the date for August 24th and 25th. Thank you.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. I don't know if my colleague knows, can we get in those F-18s and be a part of the show?
Further discussion? All right, if there's no further announcements or discussion for the good of the body, I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Mayor, excuse me. There's a blue sheet.
Oh, we got a blue sheet, don't we? Does anyone have it handy? I think I just packed mine up. One sec. The moment when you think you're getting to lunch on time. All right, so I make a motion that the City Council recess into executive session for 30 minutes to receive information on property management staff to KSA 75-4319B2 for the preliminary discussion of accusation of real property. The executive session is required to protect the city's right to the confidentiality of its negotiating position in the public interest. This will last from, let's say, give folks a little bit of a break. Let's go from 11:55.
10:50.
10:55. How many out? How many out? Mayor, Vice Mayor?
How long? Are
Half
we?
an hour, 30
Half an
minutes.
hour to 11:25.
11:25. Let the record show that Johnson said it first. Mike just wasn't on. So this executive session will run from 10:55 to 11:25, in which we will meet again in the chamber to finish up the meeting. That is the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Hoheisel. Clerk will open roll. Members cast their vote. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. We're on a 5-minute recess, and then we will meet for our executive session. Thank you.